It's about why are you doing this? What is the thing inside of you? What is the story that you can tell that allows people to know why this is meaningful to you? And have you used it? Have you navigated some specific challenge that allowed you to say, you know what, I want to fix this thing in the world?
I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that will reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities. Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. We want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. Today we get to speak with Robert Kennedy III. He's the president of Kennetik Communications, a minority-owned training firm. He has been called a dynamic leadership communicator, but at his core, he's a teacher and trainer. When he speaks, he challenges employees, executives, and business leaders alike to take accountability for their current setting and then to create a bigger future for themselves. His energetic presentations are infused with humor and keep his audiences engaged as he invites them to speak up, speak out, and lead well. Robert pulls from almost 2 decades as an educator, radio and media announcer, entrepreneur, and workshop facilitator to tap into his audience's needs. He has a mission to equip 1 million leaders with the ability to impact, influence, and inspire through communication and storytelling. So let's dig into this episode. Hey Robert, thanks for coming in and joining the show.
My man, Junaid, it is fantastic to be here, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, brother. So it's been amazing learning from you all the amazing things that you've been doing. But I wanted to bring you on the podcast because we've been crossing lines and we're hanging out in the same communities. We do similar things and what we love to do around technology and all the amazing things. So tell us a version of your journey that no one's heard of before.
Wow, man. I think I talk a lot, so I don't know if nobody's heard my journey already. Man, something that nobody's heard before. That is a tough one. I mean, my journey is kind of left, right, up, down, diagonal, right? Most people don't know some of the intimacies of it. So like when I graduated high school, so I'll start back with college. So when I went to college, my intent was to be a doctor. And so I declared med school. I did a biology degree. And then my sophomore year, I failed organic chemistry. And I was like, this doctor thing, I don't know if I want to do that. And so I didn't get rid of biology degree. I added a history degree. So I graduated from college with a double major in biology and history. Yeah, go figure that, right?
Okay.
So I did the history because I was thinking, maybe I might want to do law school. Here's the thing about a lot of us, and I am of immigrant parentage and immigrant myself. I was born on the island of Jamaica. And so our parents, the way that we're grown up as far as careers, they think it's like you get a job in this and this is your title.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, man,
And
tell me
so
about it.
I had to kind of figure out what made sense that would be acceptable
Hmm.
to my parents, or at least so I thought. Because and it's not so much that parents are bad or mean or they only want you to do certain things.
Right.
The thing that I didn't understand until I became a parent myself was that your parents kind of want to brag on you, because bragging on what you do gives them a level of status
Oh,
as
hell
well,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
So
yes.
if they can't explain to other people what you're doing, it's kind of like, what the heck is your son doing? Yeah, you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, I did biology and history. After I worked in the mental health field out of college for about 3 years. After that, I went into teaching. I was a
Hmm.
physics and biology teacher for 7 years in
Wow.
high school, and then I was a faculty in a biology department for an online university for 2 years. Underneath all of that, I started a gospel music promotions company, a
Hmm.
web development company,
Hmm.
and then after I left teaching, I was a real estate agent for 5 years. And
Dude.
so, yeah, yeah. And
Okay,
so,
wait a minute. You are so young. How did you do all of these things?
man, you do them concurrently.
Okay, okay, now that makes sense. Okay, you do it
Yeah.
concurrently.
I
You
mean,
can get
you're
it.
one to talk, Mr. UX experience, beekeeper, hacks and hobbies host, and
No, no, you got me on that one. You got to do it concurrently, and then when people are listening to you talk, and then you're like, you know, when I was in med school, and they're like, what? You were in med school?
yeah, yeah, exactly, man. So yeah, so I mean, all of that I did after I left I left the college gig, which wasn't really a leaving by choice. It was kind of a
Hmm.
forcible leaving. Um,
Like,
and
if you
so
do a few
after
more years, you can have tenure. We're just
yeah,
gonna, you know.
yeah, I wish it was that. Yeah.
Hmm.
They were just like, we're yeah, you're no longer a fit here. And I'm kind of
Wow.
like,
Okay.
okay, all right. So my after I did that, I started an instructional design e-learning course development company. That turned into a training company. I started to train a little bit more. After I did that, I started to kind of fine tune in the area of public speaking, keynoting, training. So I still moved into training, or still continue to train and coach,
Hmm.
but the content switched a little bit from online course development and e-learning to leadership and communication. So, so where I've landed right now, where I am, there are two sides to our company. We work with leaders and organizations, helping them to figure out how to communicate critical messages with
Hmm.
confidence. And then on the small business coach side of things, we teach small business owners how to tell their stories on stage and on video so that they can attract their ideal audience and generate more income.
Man, I love all of that. Okay, all of that is really awesome. I can
Yeah.
almost call you a polymath or a renaissance man because you've done so many things, right?
Yeah.
And I loved your answer about how our parents, they want us to be a doctor and an engineer because they can easily say, "Oh, my son's a doctor, my son's
Right.
an engineer," or he finished college. Like I didn't finish any college.
Mhm.
Like I don't have a degree to hold. I,
Right.
I I did 6 years of community college, whatever that did for me. But
Mhm.
they couldn't hold me down. So my parents stopped bugging me, I think about 5, 6 years ago. They're like, okay, you're fine where you are. They didn't bug me about going back and getting a degree. Now, that
Right.
doesn't mean that, does it bother me that I don't have a degree? Maybe sometimes, but
Mhm.
most of the times it doesn't really. My brother-in-law, who's about a few years older than me, he hadn't finished college either, but now he's going back to college and he got accepted
Right.
to Harvard. So I'm like, whoa, that's awesome.
Right.
Do I want to do that at this point of my life, or maybe do I want to do it in the next 5 years? I don't know. I'm very comfortable where I am right now, and the podcasting and learning and meeting people who are other entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
watching them grow and looking at that formula that really makes the entrepreneur cycle work has been really, it's been opening up for me,
Yeah.
that formula.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I think our society depending on how we've grown up, has kind of guilted us into thinking or feeling a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Because, why is it that you feel guilty about not having a degree? I mean, Bill Gates doesn't have a degree. Steve Jobs didn't have a degree. Richard Branson didn't have a degree. And
That's
we
true.
can keep going
Henry
on
Ford.
and on and on. Mark Zuckerberg didn't have a degree, right? All of these people dropped out of college or never went to college, right? And so our world is not about college. Our
No.
world is about, okay, what's the idea that you can plant your flag in that makes a difference in the world? What is the thing that makes a difference? Also, what is the thing that supports your family? What's the thing that supports you? What's the thing that you do that leaves a legacy for, yourself, your family, when you're no longer here? And I think it's up to us to find that. Can college help with that? Sure. Right. But it's not the be all end all of any of that.
Absolutely.
Of any of that. And people don't, when people say they feel guilty about not having a college degree, I mean, I look at a lot of people and I'm like, listen, but what have you accomplished in life? If you accomplished things, I mean, do you have a house? Did you buy a car? Do you have a job? Have you progressed in that job, or did you stay at the same entry level place? Or, what has been your process? Has there been progress in your process?
And if it has, then you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, college.
I love that answer. Especially because no, college is not the end all be all, especially for people who have the desire to do something with themselves. Now, college is a great guidance principle. For example, we say that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have a degree. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they don't have degrees, yes. But they did go to college to figure out, hey, if that's something for them or not.
Right.
Where's their heart, sitting in?
So I'm going to disagree a little bit about when they went because they were trying to figure out whether it was for them or not. I don't know that that's the reason. I think the reason that they went was because of expectation. You finish high school, everybody's like, oh, you got to go to college.
Right.
Oh, if you're an athlete, you got to go to college to be drafted into the NFL. I think the NBA is the only league a few years ago that was like, okay, you don't have to go to college. You can come to us right out of high school. But every other league is still like, oh, you got to go to college. Okay. You think about careers or jobs. What are the questions that they ask you on your resume? Okay, what was your degree in college? So we've been mind wiped. We've been brainwashed.
Mind wiped, yes.
Yeah, to think that, okay, that is obviously the next logical step when it is not necessarily so.
Not necessarily,
I mean, they went, but by the time they went to college, they were already doing amazing things.
They were,
right?
Yeah.
They had stuff in their garage that they were building that were figuring out that would blow the average person away.
Absolutely.
And so they just went to to figure out the next thing or to appease what was thought to be next. And when they got there, they were like, wait a minute, I'm smarter than all those people.
Right? Yeah. I don't need to be hanging out. Yes.
Right.
Oh my God.
Like,
oh my God. That.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm building this stuff that's making me money. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
So we can keep going on that, man. I love that. It's pretty amazing. Now, growing up, we have motivations, we have role models. What were some of yours to advance in life? Because we do learn a lot from our parents. We learn from people who are around us. They influence us one way or another.
Right.
How is that for yourself?
Well, I think growing up, my parents definitely were role models in some way, especially because my mom was a teacher for 30 plus years. My dad was a pastor, still is a pastor. I'm like, dude, when are you gonna retire? But he still pastors a church in Virginia. And but he was also a college professor
Mm.
for a while. So education was in my family. So
It's
it
in the
kind
family,
of
yeah.
was natural in some ways that I went into education, at least for a while. And currently, what I do as a speaker, as a trainer, still is, I mean, I'm still at my core a teacher,
You're teaching, yeah.
right? Yeah, that's still what I do. That's still, I believe, my gifting. That's
Yeah.
my calling in this world, to teach people, right? And so, you know, those, my parents were those original role models in that area. But as I got older, as I began to explore
Mm.
entrepreneurship, as I began to figure out, wait a minute, there's some stuff that I can do that nobody else has even really put in a neat box
Yeah.
yet. There, I can kind of make my own path here. I began to look at people like Richard Branson, who, you know, I'm still amazed that the
Oh, yeah.
Virgin brand is like close to 500 companies, right? This
500
dude,
companies.
yeah, yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, right. So I'm like, okay, you know, I'm looking at people like that. I'm like, okay, number one, how do you manage all of that? Number two, I've got to switch my mindset from business owner to CEO, you know,
Yeah.
from executor to strategic thinker,
Mm-hmm.
right? Marshaling resources instead of using my own two hands all the time to get everything done. So, you know, Richard Branson, I look at the stories of people like Warren Buffett. I look at, we're in Black History Month. I look at Madam C.J. Walker.
Mm-hmm.
I look at Frederick Douglass. I look at what's this dude's name? My goodness, George Washington Carver, right? I look at a lot of these people and I'm kind of thinking, oh, okay,
Mm.
literally had ideas, and they were not, maybe they were afraid, but they were courageous
Yeah.
enough to put these ideas out into the world and do something with it that was a little different than the normal path. I mean, you think about George Washington Carver, who
Mm-hmm.
thinks, listen, I'm going to try to make everything I can out of peanuts. Right? I'm gonna make some
Yes.
oil out of peanuts. I'm gonna make some butter out of peanuts. I'm gonna make dessert out of peanuts. I think I'm gonna make some ice cream out of peanuts. Right? Who sits down and says, you know, I think I'm gonna make everything possible
Yeah.
out of peanuts. Yeah. So
When somebody's going that path, down that path, you wonder, you know, what were their influences to
mhm,
even get them to, because I'm always looking at, like, I have 3 kids and I see their characteristics and how they're growing up and who they
yeah,
were influenced when they were from age 0 to 3. You know,
mhm,
who was in their lives paying the most attention and giving the most examples of how to be. And I see a lot of patterns. I'm like, wow, that is interesting. That is why this kid wants to do this all the time. This kid can be fine by himself. This kid always needs to be, you know, the boss of everybody. And you know, it's really interesting to see all of that, and then where they're heading would be really interesting to see as they grow up. It's amazing, fascinating.
yeah,
Now, since you are a teacher and you're teaching your group, you're setting up, you're getting ready to set up your program next week. What are some of the things that you can share with our audience that they can immediately take into and, you know, take action and apply into their lives or apply into their entrepreneurship? Because a lot of the audience here is in the entrepreneur mindset. You know, I started the podcast at first just talking about my little journey, but then the more
mhm,
I delve into it, I was like, you know, there has to be more to what I'm just doing by documenting my own journey. And as I listen and I learn from other experts and entrepreneurs, it became a lot more clear. So help us out here. How can somebody take some of the teachings or some of the things that you teach in your seminars and in your programs?
right.
And
Well, the biggest thing that we teach is about communication, about storytelling. So if somebody is a small business owner,
mm,
what we really teach people is, listen, if you've got a product, if you got a solution, if you've got something that you believe can solve a challenge for someone, it's not about chucking that t-shirt at them. It's not about
right,
chucking that product at them. It's about why. It's about why are you doing this? What is the thing inside of you? What is the story that you can tell that allows people to know why this is meaningful to you? And have you used it? Have you navigated some specific challenge that allowed you to say, you know what, I want to fix this thing in the world? All right. Because Simon Sinek has this great book, Start With Why. He's also got this TED Talk people can look up called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. And in that he talks about, he says, people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. And he gave an example of Apple, and the whole example was around, okay, Apple was not the first company to create an MP3 player.
Nope. No,
right?
they were not.
Back in the early 2000s, I had a bunch of them. I had a Creative Zen. I had an iRiver H10. I had a Microsoft Zune. You remember those?
I remember the Zune. Oh my God, I was so fascinated by it.
Right. So, and then after that, I got an iPod. After I got my iPod, I never had any other MP3 player after that.
Nope. They solved all of their problems. They solved the problem for themselves because they were facing it, right, while using the other MP3 players.
Yeah. And I wasn't, and I didn't even get the first iPod. I got like the third generation, like the iPod Classic or whatever. So because the first couple, I was like, no, I don't know. And then they just kind of upped their marketing, and their marketing kind of moved away from, hey, our product is better than yours.
Yeah.
It moved into, hey, listen, we're innovative. We have this ecosystem, and doing this appeals to your sense of uniqueness. Kind of ironic, but and luxury in some ways, right? Yeah. And so, I kind of started to move over into that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing because now you kind of feel a part of this club. Now you feel a part of this thing where you've got your entire library, you've got all of your experiences and your nostalgic connections in your pocket.
Yeah, are you team blue or team green, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's the biggest thing that people can really take away from what we teach is, okay, if you want to connect with people, if you want to sell a product, first you've got to connect with people. And the best way to do that is through story.
Yeah. I love that because as human beings, we love stories. Our kids grew up on listening to stories. Dad, can you read me this bedtime story? Even though you've read it 100 times, they'll want to listen to that story because two things are happening. Number one, they're getting to listen to a story that they like. Number two, they're hanging out with their dad. They're hanging out with their mom, right? We love being communicated. We love being connected with each other. And we just seen that in the past 2 years during the pandemic, and we're still trying to come off of it. How many of these Zoom calls have you been sitting in? Because we want to feel connected. Now it's different. It's different depending on if you're doing a Zoom call with other like-minded people versus doing a Zoom call for your work, right? So one you're gonna jump on right away. The other one, you're gonna be a little reluctant in joining in. It all comes down to, okay, what's the mindset? Where is this conversation going to go?
Yeah.
Man, I love that.
Absolutely.
What keeps you motivated in coming back and teaching people what you teach?
Wow. I don't know that I'm always motivated to teach people. I'm more so motivated to learn things. And when I learn things, I like to teach people what I've learned. I like to take people on a journey. I'm not one of those who, okay, let me go do it.
I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that'll reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities.
Yeah.
And then figure it all out and then come back 2 years later and say, oh yeah, I made millions of dollars because I did this. I'm one of those who is, okay, let me try to figure this out. And I'm going to tell y'all that I'm trying to figure this out or that I'm doing this, and come on the journey with me. Let's do this together. And if I happen to learn quicker than you, and the truth is, I do have a gift for assembling and assimilating and synthesizing information quicker than some other people, especially in the area of technology and communication, right? So I'll see things and I'm like, yep, I want to use that. Let me sit down. Let me learn it. Okay, cool. I do it. And then I go and then I share that with people, and people are like, oh my gosh, how'd you do that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? That? Because I took it for granted. It was easy for me.
Take it for granted. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, no, yeah. That thing that you did with the camera. I mean, I'm like, I didn't do anything. But that's, I think, what motivates me is the constant stimulation of always learning new things and then taking people on that journey.
I love that. I absolutely love that. It's your, as human beings, you're solving that curiosity thing that's in our brains, right? That desire for curiosity to solve problems. Mm-hmm. But then also, we just love tinkering with things, right?
Some of us do.
I know I do.
Some of us do. Yeah, well, some of us do. Other people are like, they want to get to a place of comfort, and then they're like, okay, cool. Just leave it there. It's like in the perfect position. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. And I'm kind of like, no, I think, what if you move it to the left a little bit?
Yeah.
What would that do?
Right. I absolutely agree. It's fascinating when you solve problems, when you find a solution, and then you just share it with people, because some people just want to see, hey, can you just solve this problem for me, because I'm trying to do this other thing. Right. Can you just come and do that for me? It's not for everybody. Yeah. It's not for everybody, and we're just lucky enough to find each other through the communities that we're part of. Yeah. And as the power of communication, communities are so important as we not only build our own setups or studios or knowledge base, but also as we learn and figure out what's the next thing for us to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a part of what keeps us vibrant, what keeps us young in some ways. So this year I'll be 50 years old this year. And for me, I've acquired a lot of experience, but I mean, mostly when I share that with people, they're like, oh, for real? You don't seem, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I've been doing some things quite a while. I mean, when I say that I was a teacher for almost a decade, they're like, how did you spend that long doing that and still have like 4 businesses that you did for like 4 years or 5 years each or 6 years or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, some of that stuff I was doing like right alongside. I would finish one during the day, and then I'd stay up late doing the other thing. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, I absolutely love that. Let's get into some more conversational style, or I don't know. Let's see if we can get some more out of our time. What is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
Man, when I was a kid, I loved trains.
Mm,
I love trains, and I had a train set that I built, and it was in my room. It took up a lot of the floor,
yeah.
but we didn't really have, we didn't have a lot of money. I was a
Hmm.
pastor's kid, and so getting more trains or doing things to get more trains wasn't something that I pursued,
Hmm.
but I loved the putting together of the trains. I loved, building the little city or the little community that the
Yeah.
trains ran through. Trains and racetracks, like little
Oh man.
cars on the racetracks, remote control vehicles.
Hmm.
I love those. So I mean, if you give me a remote control vehicle right now, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd
Let's
I'd
go.
be outside on a dirt field trying to jump it over little ramps and stuff. So,
Hey, man, those
yeah.
things are so fun. I actually got a RC car back in 2000
Mhm.
that I still have. It's an all-wheel drive,
Wow.
and I need to put some new tires on it, maybe get a new body. But
Yeah.
that thing still runs, and it's
Wow.
it still holds the value that I put into it. It's a carbon fiber body. It's really fast, and I was like, this is fun. And so I try to get my kids into stuff that I like to do. Like they have
Yeah.
helicopters and they have RC cars and whatnot. They play around with. In fact, my son did a little short police chase video with his RC car and my other son's RC car. So they're both
Right.
chasing each other. So that was really fun little video that they made. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What did you want to be when you were a child?
I honestly don't know how to answer that. I don't. I mean, when I think back about, everybody's ask kids the questions, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
I don't remember having a real answer.
Mm.
I don't remember. I might have said the casual thing. Oh yeah, I want to be a doctor, that type of
Yeah.
thing. I don't remember ever really wanting that though. And as I think back, I don't remember having a strong pull or desire
Mm-hmm.
to a specific career. Um,
Sure.
and I think the the seasons of my life that I've gone through maybe lend to that, because
Mm-hmm.
we talked about polymath, multi-potentialites, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I have done quite a few things and I've enjoyed doing all those things.
Yeah.
And so I think that there was a piece of me that maybe as a kid didn't want to choose one specific thing because
Yeah.
I enjoyed a lot of things. So maybe that's my
No,
answer.
no, that makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
because you and I, we've lived some years,
Mhm.
right? And I remember that, hey, I wanted to be a pilot
Right.
because flying planes and RC planes. Now I've got an RC helicopter that I haven't been able to get off the ground because I don't
Mhm.
know how to work it.
Right.
And it'd be fun to, do something like that. Now, with video games, I don't know if you played any video games
Oh
growing
yeah.
up or
Mhm.
even in the past couple of, maybe even
Yeah.
yesterday, I don't know. But I remember playing some, fighter jet games and they were a ton of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
It's
did a
just,
bunch of things. So like, um, my dad was, and my dad was progressive in a lot of ways. So,
mhm.
when this, like in the 80s, we were probably the first family that I knew personally that had a computer,
There
right?
you go.
That
Yeah.
was back in the day with, you could start up the computer and go have two meals and then come back.
Hmm.
And then it's just like getting to the login screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's- you
Hmm.
you had the 5 1/8 floppy disks.
Yeah.
So that was back in the day. So I remember my dad having this computer, and he pretty much just bought it for, he's working on his doctorate, and word processing. So he had like word
Sure. Yeah.
star and multimate programs. Anybody who knows those, that's like you're old
And
if you
yeah,
know the names
yeah,
of
yeah,
those programs.
yeah. If you know what we're talking about,
So
drop a message.
yeah. So he's yeah, I remember learning basic and building some basic programs. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would program a guy running, like a stick
Yeah.
figure or something running. And I'm like, oh, I made a guy run. Right. And you spent hours putting this thing together, typing in the code, and you made a guy run across the
Yeah.
screen. And that was like huge. Right.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I back then I enjoyed programming.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed, but it wasn't so much the programming of it, because I could
Right.
not see myself now as a computer programmer.
Is the outcome.
Right. It was the learning of the process. Oh, I conquered that challenge. Oh,
Yeah.
I made this happen. Oh, I built this. And so if I think about it, I like building things. I like,
Mhm.
I've been building a business. I like to build trains. I loved, Lego stuff, building, putting
Yeah.
things together. I don't
Yeah.
know that I would be an architect, but I
Mhm.
enjoy building things. I enjoy building people. I enjoy seeing people at one place and learning something new, adding a new brick on top of that, and adding a new brick and adding a new thing that causes their story to grow.
Yeah.
And so, thank you for this therapy session. I really appreciate you
No,
helping me make sense of my life.
I love it because when we understand how we work,
Yeah.
it just makes it so much easier. You don't have any questions, and then you can just continue to move forward because hey, I've solved that kind of problem. I love that.
Yeah.
What is your favorite movie or TV show?
I don't have a favorite movie or TV show. I am particular to superhero flicks, though.
Okay.
I love like anything Marvel. I want to watch superheroes. Like,
Okay.
if I had to choose, I would watch that. So like all the superhero shows on like the CW, Supergirl, Batwoman, Batman, Flash. My wife comes in and she's like, "Why are you watching that? They're so terrible. The acting is horrible." Blah, blah, blah.
I know they have terrible
I'm
acting.
like, but they're superheroes, though.
Yes.
They're superheroes. What do you mean? Yeah.
They don't have to follow any specific acting guidelines. They're superheroes.
Exactly.
All right, so we're in the right line because I love the same kind of movies you're talking about. In that line, what movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Oh man, if I got to play a character or the main character,
Could be a main, whichever.
it would be any of those superheroes. You can't go wrong. Iron Man, yeah. Transformers, yeah. Superman, yeah. Flash, yeah. Right, yeah. Any of those. Green Lantern, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. So, who out of all of those is your favorite superhero?
Man, you're asking tough questions, dude. Making me choose. I don't know that I have a favorite superhero. I think I have superpowers that I would like to acquire. I think if I had to choose a superpower, it would probably be speed, like Flash. I don't know that Flash is my favorite superhero, but
Sure.
I would, if I had to choose a superpower, I would love speed. Would probably be my number one.
Well, Superman is almost as fast as the Flash. I know we saw them kind of compete in Justice League.
Yeah, but Superman has kryptonite. So I mean, you kind of
you gotta have some.
You jack him up a little bit.
Well, the thing is, I was listening to Alan Watts. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's got a series of speeches that he's done.
Right.
And the book's called You're It. So he talks about how necessary both black and white are. 0 and 1.
Right.
Night and day. The heart, the rhythm, like you need a head and a tail.
Yeah.
So it's necessary. So kryptonite is almost like the tail and balancing out. All right, he's a superhero, but okay, fine. Now, Captain Marvel, it's a totally different ball game over there, right? She's pure energy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean,
So this is a I mean, we could be talking about superheroes for a very long time.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think the whole kryptonite thing is kind of like, okay, yeah, everybody knows it, and if you really want to beat Superman, you know this one thing that you can use to beat him.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
if you want to beat
yeah.
Flash, if you want to beat some of the other super, you got to be creative. There's not like
You
a,
got to be
a
creative.
Flash
That's true.
kryptonite. Is like you got to figure
Well,
out
there's
some
the
way to.
reverse Flash and all the other
Well,
Speed
yeah, but they
Force.
still had to be creative. I mean, they
They
had
had
to.
to, yeah.
People had to figure out the different, weight, Speed Force, blah 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 blah, and
Yeah.
then they figured out another Speed Force, like
Yeah,
So
reboot it.
yeah, so but with Superman, it's just kryptonite. You
It's
would
just
think by
kryptonite.
now that Superman would have figured out a suit or something that would reverse the effects of kryptonite.
I think Supergirl. They built a suit for Supergirl, which
They
was
did.
kryptonite. Yeah,
Yes.
you're right. You remember that one?
They did.
I love that stuff. I don't know if I don't know if I can't remember if I've seen every single episode, because I know some of them like during the pandemic they kind of like paused everything. So I know there might be some episodes that I haven't finished watching, but overall it's a really cool thing that they've been able to put together, like a whole timeline of things. And I'm really excited to see what they do with the Marvel universe, especially now that it's all under the same house, right? Under
Right.
Disney.
The Disney, yeah.
They've also absorbed all of the X-Men characters, or all of the licensing with Fox, and
Yeah.
so it'll be really cool to see if are they ever going to bring Wolverine back, or what's happening with the X-Men. It's going to be really interesting to see. And I heard rumors about how the new Fantastic Four,
Yeah.
and I think John Krasinski is going to play what's his name? I can't remember anymore.
The smart guy, I forget his name.
Yeah, the smart guy. This is kind of sad, being superhero experts and not knowing Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be awesome to see. And the beautiful part about watching superhero movies and looking at the journey and what it takes to actually make a super movie. And it's almost synonymous or parallel with building a business,
Yeah.
because it takes them about 2 to 3 years, all of the pre-production to build that movie up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you finish it, you watch the whole thing in 3 hours,
Yeah.
right? And business is the same way.
Yep.
When you really hit high, and people think, oh, an overnight sensation. Like, what are you talking about?
Yep.
We've been doing this for decades,
Yep. Yep.
building it up. I love that. All right, last question. Now, these are basically my standard questions toward the end of the episode.
Yep.
Last one is, if you were a board game, what would it be?
If I was a board game,
Yeah, you're a board game.
man, I don't know what I would be. I mean, if I had to choose a board game to play, my two favorite are Monopoly and the Game of Life. Those are my games. So
I've gotten those answers a lot from a lot of us, people like us, because it's a lot like, okay, on the Monopoly, where do you, what part of the board or what part of the city do you want to own?
yeah,
And the Game of Life is like, okay, you got life.
right.
You don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Kinda
So the
thing.
Monopoly, I think the part for me that I love is the acquisition, but also the negotiation.
The
Like,
negotiation, yeah.
Will you sell me that property? I'm really trying to complete this. I'm trying to get Marvin Gardens to complete
Right.
the yellows over here.
Yeah.
So I like the negotiation part of it.
Nice. Nice. I like that a lot. Dude, this has been a lot of fun
Yeah.
talking with you, Robert, and also known as RK3.
Yes, sir.
It's been amazing. Thank you for taking the time out to having this chill conversation with us, and taking us through your journey and all the amazing things that you've done over the years. Where can my audience find you, and what's the next thing that you're putting out there?
They can find me, try to make it easy, Robert Kennedy 3 on all social platforms except for TikTok. Somebody took my Robert Kennedy 3 there, so I'm real Robert Kennedy 3 on TikTok. I don't really have much content there yet, but it's coming.
Sure.
It's coming. But
Nice.
yeah, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I'm Robert Kennedy 3 on all those platforms. My speaker website is robertkennedy3.com. And if they want to connect with me, you can find me in the Storytellers Growth Lab. We've got a community on Facebook, and you can go to storytellersgrowthlab.com and click the join the community button and connect with
Nice.
me there. As far as what's coming next, we've got the Story to Stage Summit, which is coming up tomorrow. That's a 2-day summit, and we really are helping people figure out how to grow their visibility, attract their ideal audience, and generate income using the one thing that is unique to you. That's your story. And so that's what's coming up next. And yeah, a bunch of other stuff. I'm on a few other summits, the Growth King Summit coming up
Nice.
after next week after that. So yeah, that's what's happening in my space right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. And we'll be sure to include all the links
Yeah.
to your group and to your socials, as well as your website, in the show notes for the episode when it comes out. And I'm sure people can come back, like, depending on when this episode drops, they come back and learn more about the Story Summit.
Yep.
And the other things that you're running. Well, thank you so much again. This was a fun conversation, and we'll talk to you next time.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Junaid.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Hacks and Hobbies. You can find additional information on the guest today on their website, hacksandhobbies.com. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on upcoming interviews with amazing guests.